Welcome to the 7th episode of the 2nd season of WashU Weekly. I'm Marissa Astor.
And I'm Juan Manfredi, filling in for Robert Pino, who's running to the airport to chase the girl of his dreams. We will be airing live Tuesday at 6. However, in case you missed the live broadcast, turn us on every night at 6 p.m. Now let's start off with some national and international news. Marissa?
Yesterday, President Obama held a town hall meeting with students in Shanghai during his first state visit to China. While he didn't explicitly call on China's leaders to lift state controls that restrict internet access and online social networking, he did tell the students, who seemed handpicked by the government, that a free and unfettered internet is a source of strength, not weakness. Mr. Obama's questions and answer session was carried live by the official Chinese news agency Xinhua inside China on the agency's website and on local Shanghai stations. The White House also streamed the town hall meeting live on its website, which is not blocked or censored in China, along with simultaneous Chinese translation. The feed also was available through the White House page on Facebook.
Last weekend, President Obama began a week-long tour of Asia, and on Saturday he gave a speech in Tokyo that addressed a number of international issues. He spoke about China's growing power and his goal for the United States to create stronger bonds with the country while continuing its relationships with old partners like Japan. He also mentioned human rights broadly, but conspicuously did not bring up China's abuses in Tibet. He encouraged North Korea to partake in negotiations to end its nuclear program and urged the leaders in Myanmar to release political opponents. He also brought up the importance of fixing the trade imbalance that exists between the United States and many Asian countries. His speech was met with applause and a standing ovation.
Also on this visit, President Obama attended a meeting of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. At this conference, the president and other world leaders decided that next month's Copenhagen conference would not result in an international and legally binding agreement on climate change, as it was supposed to. Because the conference will be held in December, there is not enough time to resolve the differences between participating nations, including the large gap between rich and poor nations, which is especially visible when it comes to environmental issues. Another problem for negotiations was the U.S. Congress's inability to pass bills aimed at reducing pollutants. With attention focused on health care, it is likely that the environment will not be front and center until sometime next year. And without U.S. leadership, other nations are unlikely to be bound by an international agreement.
Almost 15% of Turkey's population is Kurdish, but for the past 25 years, this ethnic group has not been openly recognized because of conflict between the Kurds and the government. In the 1980s, Turkey banned the Kurdish language and restricted Kurds' political rights. However, all of this might change if a government plan succeeds in the Turkish parliament. This new initiative would set up an anti-discrimination committee, allow the Kurdish language to be used in broadcast, and rename places that had their names changed from Kurdish to Turkish words over in recent years. These measures come in response to Turkey's bid for membership in the EU. However, there are still numerous contentious issues to be resolved. Many Kurds want to be recognized as a separate nation within Turkey, which the government is not willing to agree to. Also, on Friday, NASA announced that its Lunar Crater Observation and Sensing satellite had purposefully crashed into the moon and discovered a substantial amount of water. This is a significant discovery for scientists and will provide insight about the origins of the solar system. And with a $79 million price tag, this discovery better be significant.
On Saturday, demonstrators in Venice held a mock funeral to protest the rising rents and tourism that has forced many locals to abandon their homes in the city's historic district. In 1993, 74,000 Venetians lived in that area. The number is now down to 60,000, and in addition, 18 million people live in the city every year. Visit the city every year. This imbalance has meant fewer services for the people who live there, including medical care, child care, and government services. The city is divided over many issues, including a project to create a subway to mainland Italy, which could help or hurt the residents and tourists. It is clear that Venice and its residents have more problems than just the sinking city.
In the past week, insurgents bombed the Pakistani city of Peshawar 5 times. The most recent attack was on Saturday, and the target was a police checkpoint. 13 people died in the attack, including 4 children, and 25 people were injured when a suicide bomber blew up a truck filled with explosives.
Congress recently passed a budget bill for the Department of Homeland Security. that included one unusual stipulation. Defense Secretary Robert Gates now has the power to block the release of all photographs from 2001 to 2009, collected during an investigation of prisoners abused by American guards overseas. The American Civil Liberties Union sued the government to release 21 photos, and court sided with him, despite the claim that their release would threaten American soldiers. However, Congress passed this law allowing Gates to prevent the public from seeing them, and unless the case goes before the Supreme Court, the photos will remain classified.
Attorney General Eric Holder decided last Friday that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, admitted mastermind of the 9/11 attacks, and 4 other suspects would be tried in a New York courtroom rather than a military tribunal. Opinion on this decision has been mostly split down party lines, with Democrats largely in support of Holder and Republicans against. New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, an independent, backed the move, citing the court's proximity to Ground Zero as a symbol of justice being served. Others have argued that the trial will prove the strength of the country's judicial system. On the other hand, Republican and former Mayor Rudy Giuliani has argued that security issues would become a major problem for the city during the trial, and that a military tribunal would have been the appropriate choice for known terrorists. The choice to move the 5 prisoners towards trial comes as part of the President Obama's promise to have Guantanamo Bay shut down by 2010.
Breckenridge, Colorado has recently decriminalized small amounts of marijuana following an Election Day ballot measure that earned the approval of 71% of its voters. State and federal laws still make marijuana possession a crime in Colorado, but residents say that local enforcement has not been a high police priority. While many denizens of Breckenridge have applauded the new legislation, others worry about the impacts of moving marijuana use from out of the shadows and into public view. Some worry that this may have an effect on collisions on slopes, which others note the infrequency of such events happening in the past as evidence of the drug's relative safety. And staying on this topic, the Cannabis Cafe, the first coffee house in the United States catering to licensed users of medical marijuana, opened for business in Portland, Oregon at exactly 4:20 p.m. last Friday afternoon. The new cafe started operation just weeks after the Justice Department announced that people who use marijuana for medical reasons and those who distribute it to them will not face federal prosecution as long as they act according to state law.
Yesterday, the U.S. Postal Service reported financial losses for the 3rd consecutive year, registering a $3.8 billion loss for the 2009 fiscal year, despite having reduced expenses by $6 billion last year. The Postal Service indicated that it plans to propose to Congress that it drop Saturday mail delivery in 2010. This action by itself would enable cost savings of $3.5 billion. In spite of its financial woes, the Postal Service still employs more than 700,000 people. The U.S. Postal Service is a self-supporting government agency that receives no tax dollars, instead relying on the sale of postage and products as well as services to generate sales.
A surprising recommendation from an influential federal task force about the frequency of mammograms was reported Monday, indicating that women in their 40s should stop having routine annual mammograms. This change is the latest development in a long controversy about mammography, and reactions were very mixed. On the one hand, several patient advocacy groups and many breast cancer experts welcome the new guidelines based on the theory that more testing, exams, and treatment are not always beneficial. But the American Cancer Society, the American College of Radiology, and other experts condemn the recommendation, arguing that routine mammography has played a key role in reducing the number of deaths from one of the most common cancers. Yet, others are concerned that these new guidelines may be designed more to control spending and ration health care rather than to improve health. About 39 million women undergo mammograms each year in the United States, costing the healthcare system more than $5 billion. And now we're going to head over to Caitlin, and she's going to give us a little look at the weather over the next week. Caitlin?
Hi everyone. Well, lately it's been raining, as you might have noticed, and yes, okay, well here, it's working now, yay. Okay, so this is the forecast for the week. This Wednesday, it's going to be 47 showers and chilly. Thursday will be 51 with like a bit of rain or fog in the morning, not sure which yet. Then Friday will be 56 degrees and partly cloudy, and then the weekend